Hello, everyone. Welcome to the maiden voyage of Alpha Planning's weekly podcast. We may do them more frequently, maybe sometimes less frequently, depending upon the time of year and things like that. I just want to let you know that this is our first one today, and that I'm going to introduce those of you who have not met Aaron Simpson, who is an awesome team member, fellow advisor here, who's going to be working with me on all these podcasts. So I like getting a different perspective from a younger advisor, one that has a different perspective of things, and he's going to be asking a lot of questions. So glad to have you here, by the way.
Appreciate
glad to
it.
have you here.
Some of the reason this was prompted to start doing these podcasts, we got a lot of questions from clients or prospects or people that have attended some of Jeff's workshops.
Right.
And this first theme was, I guess, how to pick out an advisor, how to go about, vetting one. And so the most common question that we've received is, what would you say distinguishes yourself or Alpha Planning from other firms, whether they're big like Merrill Lynch or other small firms?
Well, the differences are pretty big, actually. In our practice, the order of which we do things for people has only been created because I saw in real life and real practice that this would be more ideal, but it had to work so that the business could still be viable. Nobody has to lose, I believe, in proper best practice conduct. So, but the thing that differentiates us is that most anybody you speak with on the first or second appointment, they're going to be shoving some kind of variable annuity under your nose or some portfolio or things like that. It's really a sales situation where we're not saying we're above the fray in that respect. We do provide those similar types of solutions like that ongoing for folks. But what we're talking about, what makes us different, is up front. Is that people are able to have anywhere between 3 to 5, however many appointments, getting a complete plan with all their answers. We give them clarity on their Social Security, on any pension decisions. We analyze your assets for expenses, for duplication and all that stuff. And then we build your plan based upon, I want to retire in 2 years, we have this, and then we'll see. Can reality accommodate that, or does there have to be some sort of an adjustment one way or another? So what differentiates us in summary is that we do it, I believe, in the right order. I think the industry, because making money for them is the bottom line, we want to make money for clients as well, and you don't do it by being really aggressive and doing planning after you've already committed to products.
So what would you say someone that's walking in for the first time, they've never met you, they're sitting down, what are some important questions you think they should ask an advisor, whether it's you or somebody else, so they don't get stuck in a sales situation right away? Yeah,
the thing they should ask me or you or any associate or any other from another firm or whatever is, well, first you see what they voluntarily kind of give you. So I can only use us as a reference point, but we give people the frequently asked questions when they first come in, even if we may never see them again for whatever reason. We give them a disclosure on how we get paid. We voluntarily do all that stuff up front. But you need to ask after a while if they aren't providing you some of that kind of detail. Because their compensation structure here, Aaron, is the big difference. And you're learning that by being in the business now for a while. You're seeing how there could be another financial planner down the road. We all look the same. We dress with ties and all that stuff. We're very friendly, of course, right? I always hear people say, "Oh, but he's so nice," and we find out that maybe their account's getting churned or something, stuff like that. So, I'm sorry, did I go too far with that? I'm not accusing anybody of that, but we'll just say we see some possible symptoms of that out there in the market.
Sure.
But
speaking of the market, I know another question that's a very common one that we've received is this was from a client of ours, and what advice would you have for people that are constantly concerned and they go online every day and they're checking their account values and their statements? Yeah. Because the market's ever changing. What would you say to those people?
Well, they haven't been coached enough by us, I think, if that's the case. But regardless of how much we try to help people become a little different in how they look at things, it's often with some limited success. But the bottom line is that when they just stick with the process, they're going to be successful. You just do not need to micromanage your portfolio. And I used to trade and do all that speculation and gambling stuff on the side, really just trying to predict short-term trends. The market, frankly, is just really more of a longer term. It's the only thing that makes it not speculation and gambling is when you have things long term. So our Schwab solution, primarily, we have a couple of different ones, but the Schwab solution we have with Matson Money is pretty incredible. All of the accounts are fully diversified across 19 asset classes, 36 countries.
And for viewers that maybe aren't familiar, what is Matson Money?
Well, Matson Money is a manager. They originate in Mason, Ohio. They're essentially have taken a lot of the Nobel Prize winning things that you always read about, talk about, and hear about, but nobody actually does, except for a few of these things. And it all comes from the great University of Chicago. The Nobel Prize winners, Eugene Fama is actually on the board of Matson Money, and Eugene Fama won the Nobel Prize for Economics a few years ago for his four-factor theory, which I won't go into. But once you have if you have your income in retirement, to keep people from not micromanaging things is that when they go through the process with us, if they allow us to provide a certain amount of stability and protection, regardless of the markets not related to them, alongside some measured, good investment that we have that's prudent, low cost, fair for everybody involved, then you don't have to worry about it. And I think that you'll never be happy as a retiree if you're constantly watching CNBC. Because I can tell you, I used to be that addict too, about 20 some years ago. And I realized that as I learned more, there was nothing actionable, anything you can really do. It's just a constant, real-time changing, always talking about what's already happened or happening. It's just far too late. And you're not really doing that in retirement. You want to have prudence. You want to have stability. You don't want to have too many ups and downs that are too large, because that's just not the kind of direction that is healthy for a retiree, that's all. Mm-hmm. So by having a diversity of assets, some related to the market, some not, is a great way to reduce that risk incredibly.
Yeah.
So that maybe they won't keep watching so much.
For sure.
I'm not going to do that in retirement. Heck, I don't do it now.
Yeah.
I don't watch the daily moves. I used to do that. It was crazy because it makes you completely crazy.
Right.
Literally, you look at things so short term because you're putting like a short term view on something that is really only long term, because you can almost always make money in equities. Mm-hmm. Equities, like Mark Batson says, is like one of the greatest wealth building tools in known to mankind. But you have to have them long term. You have to own the market. You got to be spread around, and there has to be a system that's predetermined. There's some very good ones that we've attached to. That are institutional, but we could plug us normal retail people into it. So.
Well, it's nice to hear you talk about our philosophy a little bit. That's not so much just about the numbers, but it's about making sure people are living comfortably and
that's a
able
good
to
point.
do the things they want to do in their retirement.
Sure, because it's all about the client's happiness ultimately. I mean, if they want to handle everything, a lot of people do, but then they realize if something happens to them, their spouse is going to be completely in the dark. And also, you really can't possibly, as a layperson, have the same effectiveness as you can with a team of professionals. It's just, especially with the way we do things so directly and transparent from beginning to end. I mean, it's hard to find many kinks per se.
Yeah.
And we don't find many people who say, "Oh, I don't think this is worth it. I just want you to sell me something." I don't hear that. So that's great.
You touched on it. I didn't think that there was going to be an appropriate transition, but we've had a question as well. What would you say to the person that comes in that says, I know what I'm doing. I'm a self-investor. I'm very savvy with things.
Yeah.
But their spouse or significant other doesn't know the first thing about it. Would you think that there's a problem there? Or
yes, absolutely. There. I mean, I had years ago. I had a fellow who was 80 years old, who had he made pretty good decisions on the stuff he had, a little above average for what we see lay people have, but he just could not let go. And this guy was 84, and he kept coming in, but he's just the guy just could not give it up. And here's what it is: it's a lack of trust, which we understand that. You should never blindly trust,
Trust but
but
verify.
Absolutely. There's one of our many credos, trust but verify. And you know that your planner should make you feel comfortable that you know things are taken care of, but you don't keep a blind eye to stuff. I mean, you don't have to analyze your statements to the nth degree, but you can still always at least take a quick overview if you have questions and challenge your advisor. And my clients love to come in and challenge me because they know I'm flexible and I'm not going to get bent out of shape. Because that's what we're here for. I mean,
but it's a little easier, and there's nothing to hide, and there's full transparency going on.
Well,
as well.
I know this sounds crazy, but I took the truth and used it as a great client communication and sales tool. Because with our type of, you can't do this necessarily this purely ethically with any other industry. I guess you could, but with this particular one, especially keeping our independence like this, I make it as good as we want to make it. I mean, anytime we see something that could be so much help the clients feel better, which means that we have an easier time of giving recommendations and satisfying people, it's just a win-win situation, you know. So it's the numbers, like you said, are important, but it's the feeling. But the self-investor question I want to answer to finish up this portion of it is that I think it largely comes down to ego. I love the people that I get that come in all the time that were self-investors or still until they came on board, but then they realized that they didn't want to leave. It's not just about if you die and your spouse is left. That's important, but it's also about making the right decisions while you're both alive, too, and while you can talk about it. Because widows, I have found, they don't have their hubby to talk to, you know, or the male sometimes is even that way as well. But the way our society's kind of still leans, you know, it's still mostly often female. But they're the ones that are going to typically outlive the husband. So they need to be involved, but there's no way. Once again, and this is not arrogance, there's no way a lay person can ever avoid learning curve on certain things, that they're going to make big mistakes or missed opportunities, and you just only have so many mulligans at this point in your life, because we only work with those 15 over typically, at least I do.
Yeah.
Most of us, so does that answer your question, Aaron?
It does,
Right.
it does, and I like hearing you talk about the philosophy of your firm, and I know for me the reason I joined your practice is for those same reasons of doing it opposite from those big firms and having
you got bounced
transparency.
around a little bit, and just like I did, you know, you see how you're just really just purely sales, and that they talk about like do what's right for the client, but it's just
There's
a
some
bunch of
firms
lip
out there that
service.
don't do that.
No, and the thing is that there's so many things that aren't directly illegal, especially, I mean, in life in general, but even in our industry alone, I see injustices all the time that are not actionable in court. But I have this little, I don't have this is just a thought, I don't have any facts for this one, but I believe that more people lose money from legal, ethical things that are not illegal, but that are very questionable, and they would never be exposed completely for what it is publicly. They would try to avoid that. That's the measure of the good advice. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, that's just my philosophy, you know, take it for what it is. But.
Yeah, well, this has been a great first session. I think that's all the questions we have time for.
Yeah, we don't want to make
today,
this too long, because
but,
we know we're a fast-paced society, and everybody's so busy like we are. But we hope you enjoy this. We're gonna be doing this more and more, especially because I do love having Aaron as another colleague to work with, and he's really added so much to the business, as well as Wendy and some other staff members in the future here.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, keep a notice for our next newsletter. We'll have some more information on how you can watch all the podcasts, and then also subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you'll see a link for it on our website. So
thanks a lot, everybody.
Until next time.
All right, thanks a lot, everybody.